What do you view as an appropriate and healthy ratio of federal to state dollars in Missouri's annual budget?
100% Missouri and 0 federal. The libertarian view is that it really is the Constitution intended. The Constitution did not originally have an income tax. The federal government had set powers, and those powers, and its only power to tax was to either petition the states for money, not the people directly, but the states, and petition those states in proportion to their population. So each state wouldn't pay by who's got the best lobbyist or whatever, they would pay by how many people live there. When the federal government needed money for things like, for example, national defense, which is a lot, I mean, my definition of defense is a lot different than the current definition, but that's what it would do. And the only way the federal government directly made money were on things that involved international commerce. So there were tariffs on international trade, and I support tariffs on international trade. You know, low fixed tariffs, not, you know, favors to whoever gives you the most money. You know, if you're a sugar producer in South Florida, or whatever, is one of my personal favorites. But so the federal government was supposed to be extracting, only influencing really things that affected international issues like international trade per se. So in my mind, Missouri's budget should be Missouri. Missouri should be in charge of getting the money that it needs to conduct the state's business without the benefit of sending it to Washington and hoping we get a lot of it back. You know, the best ratio that's ever come back is about 70%. Doesn't seem like a very good deal to me. And then when the federal government petitions the states for money, then Missouri should be in charge of collecting that money from the taxpayers to send it to the federal government, you know, as allocated. That was the way the Constitution was set up. It was not direct taxation by the federal government.
If the vote were taken today, would you vote for the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act?
No.
Would you vote to end farm subsidy programs?
Yes.
To what extent do you believe, and I'm sorry, if I could redo this all, I would. This is a convoluted question.
Okay.
To what extent do you believe that in an enlightened democratic society, the citizenry should be bound by any type of financial and social commitment to support the greater good of all Americans?
I think the commitment to support the greater good doesn't need to go through government. Because government doesn't support the greater good, it supports whoever has the best lobbyists and the most cronies in Washington. So I think, yes, as libertarians, we're not isolationists. We understand that human progress comes through human interaction, and we fully believe in personal responsibility. So people should be responsible first for themselves and their families, their communities, that basically the best, you know, effect, because there are things that happen that are bad to people where they need help from other people, and that's certainly true. But those things are best handled by the people closest to them, not by a bureaucrat in Washington, which is, some people call it the nanny state. I call it the Nurse Ratched state, because, you know, it's cold and callous. It's words on a piece of paper saying, you know, which may be incredibly fair to one person, incredibly unfair to another, and I just don't think that's appropriate. It's also wasteful.
Finally, how would you assess today's political culture in D.C.? How can you be a productive representative of Missouri within this framework, and how will you measure your own success?
I guess to start at the end, I would measure success by being able to cut spending, or reduce the size, the scope, and the power of the federal government. That's really my overarching objective. So I would measure success in that regard, and certainly measure success to the best of my ability in terms of voting against anything that goes against that. I think the culture in D.C. is quite bad, and I think I share that with most of the American people. People are very fed up with what's going on in D.C. and with Congress, and they basically regard it as a special interest club. And I like to call it the entitlement class. In libertarian class theory, there's the entitlement class and the productive class. And the entitlement class lives off the productive class. And I'm in the productive class, and I think that we need a little more of that mentality of the people that are actually having to follow the mandates and the laws and the regulations to try to actually make a living and create wealth on a day-to-day basis, compared to people that basically have a career that goes from being a lobbyist to a politician to a lawyer and back again in some sort of circle, or a regulatory consultant. A lot of them do that too. And they kind of go around, but it's an incestuous community of people that have never really worked in productive society for the most part.